Wait, let's see. Oh, okay. Hello.
Hello.
We're at the Fayetteville Cemetery Historical Walk to see Christina. Say hello.
Hello. Hello.
Creepy.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth McCarran Brown, but you can call me Miss Lizzie, thank you. I was born here in the Kenwood district of Fayette County in 1891. My parents were Pleasant Marion McCarran and Fanny Hudson McCarran. I was raised here in the county on the farm. I remember when I was younger, my parents had very strict standards of behavior. They certainly believed their children should share the workload. I was also taught the true virtues of a Southern lady. No drinking, no swearing, and of course attending church was mandatory. I remember that my father was in the war against the states. He never wore any clothing of blue because it reminded him of them Yankees. He did wear khaki work clothing. When I began to teach, I was assigned to a little old country schoolhouse in Shack Ride. That is in the Peachtree City area now. This is also where I met my husband, Mr. Marcus Brown, who was a farmer. I remember he was a fine baseball player too. We were married January 1st, 1913. And I continued to teach at that old Shack Ride school for 30 years before we moved to Fayetteville in 1941. That is where we raised, what is that sound? That is where we raised 3 daughters and a son. I did retain my membership at Ebenezer Methodist Church, as well as being recognized and joining the Fayetteville Methodist Church as well. It was very sad when I lost my husband on our 43rd wedding anniversary in 1957. But in my later years, I quite enjoyed quilting, crocheting, and tending to my lovely flower garden. In my final days, I lived in the homes of my 3 daughters. Before I passed, at age 111,
Oh my goodness.
I joined the United Daughters of the Confederacy, as well as being recognized by the Sons of Confederate Veterans, as I was a real daughter of the Confederacy. This was an honor I was very proud of. When I died in January 2002, I was the oldest living Georgian. I'm also the oldest recorded person in this cemetery. Now that, my friends, is indeed worthy to be envious of. It was such a pleasant visit. Please do come again.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Her grave is right over there.
Just going to wait one more second to let everybody get in. I don't suffer from that disease. Well, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is William Bennett. I was born here in Georgia in 1791 and moved to Fayette County in 1820. My father served in the Revolutionary War, and after the treaty was signed, was able to purchase land. Luckily enough for him and myself, my mother Rachel came with him. Now, tidbit of information. My mother Rachel was buried in this cemetery and has the earliest recorded birth date here of 1764. All right. Anyways, one of my endeavors in life was to build a grain mill, the original Bennett Mill. Completed in 1837, and y'all probably know it today. It's a restaurant now called Frank's at the Old Mill. Ah, it's still standing, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks
I did a good job. Anyways, in life, it served me very well as a grain mill. I was a founding member and a preacher of the First Baptist Church and donated some land to construct a building for it. I also, in 1823, donated land to the city of Fayetteville for this cemetery to be constructed. Now, as you can imagine, I had a decent amount of land, both in farmland and downtown city plots. I was able to build a house, just a couple houses down from here, and my son was able to build a house on my lots off Beauregard. Now, when the war between the states broke out, I was told I was too old to serve at the age of 70. This did not keep my son and grandson from serving, and serving honorably. Now, as you can imagine, I had a decent amount of land, both in farmland and downtown city plots. I was able to build a house, just a couple houses down from here, and my son was able to build a house on my lots off Beauregard. Now, when the war between the states broke out, I was told I was too old to serve at the age of 70. This did not keep my son and grandson from serving, and serving honorably. However, that didn't keep the war from coming to me. In the summer of 1864, what month was it? July. Yes, July of 1864. Yankees from McCook's raid came into our town, pillaging and destroying anything they can find of value. And they were just so needy, they took a rope and put it around my old neck and threatened to hang me. At this moment, my son's wife, Emily, went out in the yard and made the Masonic sign for distress. And to much surprise, a Yankee officer answered our call. He came into the house and ordered his men out of there. That didn't stop them though, they kept going. So at that moment, he took his gun out and shot it off once and said, "Get out of your life." Woo-wee. They let me go and went running out of that house so fast, you sight and behold. But as the war came to an end, poverty was all over Fayette County. And being the generous soul that I am, at the young age of 76, would go to my mill every day and scrape extra grain out from the cracks in the floor and off the bottoms of the grindstones. Sack it up, cart it all over Fayette County, and distribute it to needy citizens. And I did that for a number of years until my age finally caught up with me. Then I died at the age of 86 in the year 1873. It's been nice speaking with y'all this evening. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Welcome, friends. In case you were not able to hear your spirit guide, my name is Robert Burch. I was born in Inman, grew up in Fayette County, and graduated from Fayette County High School. During World War II, I was stationed at Australia and New Guinea, and that really introduced me to foreign lands. After the war, I was a civilian employee with the U.S. Army in Yokohama and Tokyo. During those years, wanderlust set in, so I boarded a Danish freighter and stopped at ports of call in the Orient, North Africa, and Europe. Through it all, though, Fayette County was always in my heart and always my home. Upon my return to the United States, I did reside in New York City for about the next 8 years. During that time, one of my hobbies was studying writing. A professor I had suggested that writing might be a good career, so with his encouragement, not only did writing become my profession, it also became my passion. I truly enjoyed writing children's books, and the basis of those stories I used at Fayette County in the 1930s. Those stories tell of a time when life was slower paced and neighbors truly cared and knew each other. In all, I authored 19 children's books, and I have received numerous awards for those books, numerous awards and citations for those books. Probably the most notable of the books that I wrote was Queenie Peavy, but another one, Ida Early Comes Over the Mountain, NBC used as the basis for a television movie in the 1980s. As I said, many of my books have gotten several awards and citations, and I've really been truly honored by that. But I think the highest honors came from right here in Fayette County. The County Board of Education named a local elementary school in my honor, and the Holliday Dorsey Fife Museum has included me in their author's room. They have several of my children's books on display, a couple of which are even translated into foreign languages. The Holliday Dorsey Fife House and Museum is just up the street here, and it's very close to a house that I used to stay in while I did my writing here in Fayette County. I know you have other spirits to visit this evening, so for now I'll just say good evening, friends, and thank you for visiting.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Good evening.
my name is Panola Dorsey, but please y'all call me Nola. I was born here in Fayetteville in 1851, and I attended the Fayette Academy when I was growing up. My parents, Solomon and Sarah, purchased the big Holliday home in 1870. Now we knew the young man who used to live there who would come and visit us from Griffin, a Dr. John Henry Holliday, but we all called him Doc. Now my younger sister Evie and I loved that big old house. We explored and discovered so many of its secrets. In fact, we would take our friends and unsuspecting visitors up to the attic and scare them with the skeleton that Dr. John had left when he moved to Atlanta. While we had a good giggle about that. Well, unfortunately, the fun did not last for long. I was 10 years old when the war between the states broke out. I remember my father served with the state militia, and my brother, John Manson Dorsey, who we all called Manny, served with the Fayette Rifle Grays as he carried the flag for them. Now, that flag was made in the parlor at the Holliday home by the local ladies. In fact, Mrs. Holliday had to go all the way up to Atlanta to get the silk material that they needed to use. Now, Manny served honorably, but he was wounded twice. Once at Gettysburg, where he acquired a head wound, and another time at Cold Harbor. As you can imagine, this left him unable to care for himself. My sister and I were already caring for our elderly parents, and we felt it our duty to care for him as well. In 1901, when our father passed away, Evie, Manny, and I moved to a smaller house, and we sold the big house to a Mr. Robert E. Lee Fife. Now, in 1909, Manny passed away, and he left Evie and I the little house that we had purchased. I passed away in 1930, and Evie joined me in 1936. However, we are still buried here together as a family, as we always will be. Thank you all for coming to see me this evening, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Stanley Morgan. I was born in Coleman, Alabama in 1893, where my family owned a farm. Now, I worked on the farm, went to rural school, also attended some college. That was before the US entered World War I. I entered the Navy, I volunteered, joined the US Navy, and my unit was responsible for keeping German submarines out of the West Indies. After the war, I enrolled in Emory University, got a degree, and continued teaching, eventually becoming principal of a school in East Point. Now, on a visit to Fayetteville with some friends, I met my future wife, Lucy. We were married in 1921. We liked Fayetteville so much that we decided to stay here. So I continued teaching and even tried my hand at selling insurance. That was until I was made postmaster in 1934. Now you're all standing here wondering when the heck he's going to say something interesting that he did. Well, I'm getting to that. Because some folks might tell you it was for playing checkers and winning. Others might tell you that it was for moving my prized milk cow from pasture to pasture to take advantage of free grass. Then others would say it was walking down the street, reading my newspaper and bumping into people. But between me and you folks, I believe it was a scandal of 1957. That was when our mayor, Varney Graves, and his wife were invited to France to take part in the celebration for the 200th anniversary of the birth of the Marquis de Lafayette. Now, Life magazine covered that story, so when magazine was delivered to the post office, I, as postmaster, took the liberty of reading the article and looking at some of the photographs they took. Well, let me tell you, some of those photographs were not very flattering. In fact, they were darn near scandalous, and I felt it was my duty as postmaster to stop the delivery of the magazine. I can tell you, a lot of ladies were very upset at not receiving their Life magazine. Well, eventually it was decided by others that the magazine could be delivered, and I was forgiven. As to the picture, I will let you form your own opinion, for it's on display in the Holliday, Dorsey, Fife Museum. I will not discuss it in public, it's too scandalous. I retired as postmaster in 1960, was awarded Citizen of the Year in 1966, and I passed away in 1968. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out this evening and listening to me. Enjoy the rest of your tour.
Thank you.
Good evening, y'all. My name is Robert Alexander Holliday. Y'all call me Uncle Bob. I was born in 1787 in South Carolina. My ancestors emigrated here from England in the 1660s and Ireland in the 1750s. My father was Robert Holliday Jr. and my mother was Jane Cooper. My father served in the Revolutionary War as a Patriot militiaman, and he fought in the Battle of Kettle Creek, which was a small but important battle involving 350 militia patriots who defeated 850 British loyalists. This was important at that time, 1779, because the British had just taken Savannah, so we badly needed a moral victory. My father and I were very close, and he used to take me to Masonic meetings at the Burroughs and Stiles house. While there, I met the fair Rebecca Stiles. We briefly courted and were married. She was 17 and I was 31. No judging. Moving on. In 1826, we moved to Fayette County. We purchased 405 acres for $320. I'll let that sink in for a minute. The following year, because it was such a great deal, we bought 405 more acres. In 1837, we purchased a tavern, and they threw in this nifty apron. And I became an innkeeper, and that's where I got my nickname of Uncle Bob. Our home was right up on present-day Glen Street. We had 3 sons, Henry, John Stiles, and Robert. Well, Henry and Alice, they had what today we would probably call a wild child. His name was John Henry Holliday. But you all probably know him better as Doc. We heard tell he had some adventures out west, just rumor. John Stiles Holliday became a respected physician here in Fayetteville and built a home right up the street, 1855, which is now the present-day Holliday Dorsey Fife Mansion or Museum, which is listed on the National Historic Register. And Robert, well, he married up. He married a Fitzgerald. And you're familiar with Fitzgerald name in this area. That made us kin to a young authoress named Margaret Fitzgerald Mitchell, who wrote
Gone with the Wind.
Thank you very much. I'm here always. Sadly, fair Rebecca had passed away in 1856, and I followed her in 1862 during the war between the states. And we are buried right here. So we thank you all for coming out, and we thank you for your interest.
Thank you.
Been laying down for 91 years, so I just want to tell you, occasionally I get a bit foggy upstairs. I just want you guys to know that if I get a bit foggy, I may ask for your help in helping me with one thing or two. My name is Mary Ellen Fitzgerald, and I was born in 1840. I was the oldest daughter of Eleanor and Gerald Philip Fitzgerald. Gerald was the other brother, but I was born to Philip. And they are buried back here in that very long plot. We had a lot in our family back then. I had 6 sisters and 3 brothers. But as with many of the young children at that time, all my brothers died at an early age. We lived out in the country at a place called Rural Home. And I lived there all my life. Well, most folks in town would know me as Aunt Mamie. And my sister, Sarah Jane, who's back there with me now, they called her Aunt Sis, and we never married. We stayed home, we took care of Mama and Daddy, and took care of the farm, as well as any man could. We would welcome friends, family, and visitors for nigh on 50 years to Rural Home. Well, there was one special little visitor that I remember very well. It was my sister Annie's granddaughter. Well, Miss Margaret was quite a tomboy back then. She loved to ride the horses and go exploring in the meadow and the wood. But when those front porch discussions turned to the late war, or the unnecessary war as we called it, she was very attentive. She loved to hear all the stories about the Yankees. Little Miss Margaret seemed to absorb every detail that she could about that Civil War. Well, a lot of folks in town thought that Aunt Sis and I were saintly because as Catholics, we did many good deeds. We taught school to the children of the plantation owners and the servants, and we never once asked for a payment. And then we would teach religious instruction to our neighbors because it was hard to get to a church. Well, we were, and see, I told you, like 91 years and my brain just died. It kind of happens when you've been buried that long. We were very independent and self-supporting. We supervised our farm workers. We made sure that our farming implements were in good working order. We rented out some of our land to the neighbors around us, and we were up on all the latest farming practices. Well, some of our friends would come and ask us, our advice for how to raise cotton. Well, can you imagine that? Men coming to ask ladies how to raise cotton? It was scandalous back then. Well, I died in 1926 at the age of 86, and I was laid in the family plot back there. Now, the yard at Rural Home and here at the cemetery was filled with mourners, but there was always one special mourner for me, my dear, sweet grandniece, Margaret Mitchell Marsh. Now, Peggy, as we like to call her, was writing a book, and she had thought of a title, and I've been laying here and sitting, actually I've been sitting here, but I was laying earlier. I was trying to remember the name of that book, and I'll be if I can't remember, but I think I'll try. I think I it was called Up with the Wind.
Close.
Close. Not there? Well, all right, we'll try that one again. How about, I got it now. Away with the Wind. No, still not it. Well, have y'all read the book my niece wrote? What was the name?
Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind. Well, of course it was. Yeah, 91 years kind of gets to you. Well, and I hear it was quite a smash too when it was written. Well, my dear Peggy, she would come out many times and take care of our family plot and make sure that it was really nice for us in our final years. Well, she was such a sweetie, and I do miss her dearly now, so. But listen to me hammering on about myself when I know that you have come to hear my Fayette friends tell their stories and their history too. So, I will bid you a fair evening and say thank you.
Thank you.
Come close. Come close. You need not be scared of me. Me name's Mary McBride, and yonder lies me dear mother, Barbara MacDonald. She was born in Scotland in 1767. Aye, that was even before the colonies were fighting for independence against old King George. Now, when me mother and me father Roderick left Scotland to come to the colonies, so they settled here in Georgia. I'd say me mother had a very full life, passing away at the age of 93 years. I myself was born 4th of June, 1807. I had a pious education. At age 11, I was baptized in the Church of God. And at age 19, I was being wooed by William McBride. And we were bound in holy wedlock on the 3rd of October, 1826. Now, around that time, they were building the Fayette Courthouse, and my husband William was hired to install the door locks. He was paid a whole $3 for that job. He was also a Fayette Dragoon in the 53rd Regiment, and they fought against the war between the states. And the Presbyterian Church in Fayetteville designated him a trustee. Now, during our 17 years of marriage, I bear 10 children. Alas, poor me wee bairns died early in childhood, and they're lying next to me there. I myself passed away on Sunday, November 11th, 1843, in my home near Fayetteville. I was 36 years old. But 6 of me children did live to adulthood, and we have descendants living here in Fayette County today. Now, I want to thank you all for visiting here at this area of the cemetery, which is where most of the older interments took place. I bid you all a fond farewell. It's been lovely having you.
Thank you.
Good day,
Thank
God
you.
bless.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jane, wife of William Whatley. His ancestors came to Jamestown, Virginia in the 1660s. His grandfather Ormond was a Revolutionary War soldier. William was born in Morgan, Georgia in 1810 and came to Fayette County in the 1830s. He settled in Glen Grove community, now known as Starr's Mill. He was married twice and, as his second wife, raised 12 children. During the war between the states, William was elected 4th Lieutenant of Company C, 4th Regiment of the Georgia State Militia. He was the enrolling officer for that company. In September of 1864, he was detailed from his unit to escort none other than General John Bell Hood, the Confederate commander of the Atlanta forces. In November of 1864, when he was 54, he took part in the Battle of Griswoldville. William was wounded twice. He was shot once in his face and once in his foot. This battle was very lopsided, as many of our troops were older men, young boys, and furloughed disabled Confederate soldiers. They were facing overwhelming forces of Union troops. They made 7 charges. However, they had 50 killed, 200 wounded, and 400 missing, whereas the Union had only 10 killed and 52 wounded. This was the only major opposition to Sherman's march to the sea. It is now compared to Pickett's charge at Gettysburg. After the battle, William came home seriously wounded, but picked himself up and started over again. He was an honorable man and served on the state legislature from 1881 until 1883. He was a founding member of Glen Grove Baptist Church, and he served as postmaster of Fayetteville for several years. As a courier for the federal government, he took documents from Augusta to New Orleans. William lived to be 99 years old, passing away, sadly, just 1 month away from his 100th birthday. The old man had tried to jump over a branch and fell, but sadly it was the pneumonia that took his life in 1910. Thank you all for coming by so I could share William's story with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Nelly Mae Rowe. I was born July 4th, 1900, and raised on my parents' farm in Fayette County, Georgia, the 9th of 10 children. Daddy was born into slavery, and Mama always said that she was born the year they freed the blacks. Daddy would sit down at night and tell us children about slavery times. But I have no energy to draw pictures about slavery times. It makes me feel sad. Daddy was also a blacksmith and was well known for the fine white oak baskets he made. He also had a syrup mill. Mama was a seamstress and a quilter. As a family, we attended Flat Rock AME Church. I've been married twice. I was 16 when I married Ben Wheat. We stayed in Fayetteville until 1930. Then we moved to Vinings. After Ben died in 1936, I married Henry Buddy Rowe, a widower who was much older than me. In 1937, we built a house on the main street in Vinings, a few miles from the Georgia governor's mansion. After Henry Rowe died in 1948, I started hanging things in the yard, in the trees and bushes. I said, now, I'm going to get back to when I was a little gal playing in the yard. I called it my playhouse. It was full of my artwork, life-size dolls, chewing gum sculptures, pictures, drawings, and other art I created because of the talent God gave me to draw what's on my mind. I used pencil and crayon, chewing gum, ink, felt tip pens, ballpoint pens, and later in life pastels. Even things folks threw away, I would take nothing and make something, ever since I was a child. many people started visiting and taking pictures of my playhouse. In 1976, my artwork was first shown in an exhibition called Missing Pieces, Georgia Folk Art, 1770 to 1976 at the Atlanta History Center. Soon after the exhibition, I met Judith Alexander, an Atlanta gallery owner who liked my work. She showed my work in New York, Dallas, and Atlanta. And now my works form a large collection at the High Museum of Art in Atlanta, the Smithsonian American Art Museum, the Library of Congress American Folk Life Center in Washington, D.C., and the Folk Art Museum in New York, as well as other folk art museums, including numerous public and private collections. In 1981, cancer made me sick. In 1982, I was buried at Flat Rock AME Church Cemetery in Fayetteville, Georgia. And when I get to glory, I want to hear, "Well done, Nelly, well done."
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Pearl Dorsey. Actually, I live not too far from here. That is, I was born in 1896. Now, my parents were George Dorsey and Miss Lo Glass. Now, they told me that they were married in 1881. Now, I believe that they said the officiating minister was none other than Minister F.M. Jones. Now, once they got married, they rented a home not too far from here. I think near Highway 314. They rented a home on a working farm. And I need you to understand, we worked the farm. I was one of 11 children. And yes, we worked and worked. Well, anyways, my father, he was a blacksmith. And I tell you, with all these children, etc., we loved going to church. We went to the Merrill AME Church near Jeff Davis. Now, I went to school. I went to the Edgefield School. Only went to the 3rd grade, but that's all right. Because when I became a man, that was at the age of 21, I got to go to the big city, which is Atlanta, Georgia. I worked for the Consolidated Film Supply Company. Now, I remember my supervisor. Yes, I do. His name was Mr. Shell Nut. But that's another story. Because I loved what I did. What we did was we received deliveries and canisters. These canisters actually had film in it, the most popular film of that day. What we would do is send it to all of the theaters in Atlanta. Once they finished watching the film, they'd pack it up, we'd get them, and then deliver them throughout the entire state of Georgia. Well, guess what? In June of 1917, I did my due diligence. I signed up for the draft. Well, actually, I just left my mark. But then, in July of 1917, I became a United States soldier in the Army. I was excited about that. Why? Because it was 1A. Then, where did they send me? To Camp Gordon, that is. You probably know it as Fort Gordon. Then they assigned me to the 157th Depot Brigade, first class. Now, what they would do is they would get all of these soldiers and send them to Camp Gordon and prepare them for battle, combat. Once they were ready, they sent them overseas for the war. But, well, I didn't have to go overseas. I did all of my time at Camp Gordon. Now, when they realized, basically, we had won the war, it was basically over, they began to discharge these soldiers from the 157th back home. In October of 1918, I was elated. Why? Because they discharged me. But it was 25% disability due to an injury I received while performing my duties. Well, at the age of 23, I was so excited. I married Frida. Then, after Frida, I married the prettiest Georgia peach. Oh my goodness, she was so pretty that I called her the prettiest. And I also worked at the pressing club during that time in which we cleaned clothes. Now in 1947, I passed away. Now, as you walk away, I want you to look over near the gravesite. You're gonna see actually where my grave is because there's a little light that is shining right on my gravesite. And I'm so thankful for the prettiest for getting that nice headstone for me. Now, if you all just stay still for just a moment, I have an original descendant from the Dorsey family that's going to sing, and she may bring a few of her friends along to sing a beautiful song that you can sing along to. Don't go away. Hold on just a moment. Miss Olivia, are you available to sing to some nice people tonight? Come on. I'm so excited that you are still available. Come on. People can't wait all night long. All right.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We're going to do this little light of mine, and if you like to help us out.
Feel free to join us. All right, hit it.
This little light of mine,
I'm gonna let it shine. Well,
this little light of mine,
I'm gonna let it shine. Well,
this little light of mine,
I'm gonna let it shine.
let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Around my neighbor's door,
Well, I'm gonna let it shine. Well,
around my neighbor's door,
I'm gonna let it shine. Well,
around my neighbor's door,
you know
I'm gonna let it shine,
let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine. Thank you all. Have a great evening. Remember, the Dorsey family, rich in tradition. You all have a great night.
Thank you.
What a nice night for a meeting. Hi, my name is Otis Raymond Simpson, but I prefer just Raymond. I was born November of 1942. When I was in the 5th grade, I moved to Atlanta, from Atlanta to Fayetteville. My parents, Otis and Winfred Simpson, lived next door to my father's business, the Simpson Provision Company, with a meat processing plant. As a young man, I worked there. I went to Fayette County High School. I graduated in 1961. I married my high school sweetheart, Elaine Mitchell, in October of 1962. September of 1966, I was drafted into the United States Army to serve in Vietnam. I was November of 1967. I was a specialist, 5th class, in B Company, 228th Aviation Battalion. I was a multi-engine, tandem rotor helicopter mechanic. What I remember best was the wonderful packages that Elaine would send to me filled with yummy treats. I would share them with my buddies. Once she sent me a pound cake with a can of frosting. Talking about lips smacking good. And then she sent me packages with Girl Scout cookies and Kool-Aid. I was very lucky to spend a week of R&R with Elaine in Hawaii. We toured the island of Oahu. We really enjoyed the luau. We always loved the outdoors. When my tour of duty was up in November of '68, I was coming home. I was keeping my word to my wife. We heard a ping and we smelled smoke. The helicopter came down safely. We all scrambled and got out. But I remembered a special gift that I had for my wife back home. So I went back inside to get it. I got tangled in the straps, the fire spewed. My buddies brought me home, but not in the way I wanted to come. This November of 1968, I have resided at Temple Memorial Park Cemetery. My mother just turned 103. She lives in North Carolina. I want to thank you for allowing me to tell my special story to you tonight.
Thank you.